my name is Raik. I'm from Riia. And during my next 20 minutes, I'll present you how we in Riia are clustered all our central servers. And actually clustered every security server also in this way. And we used Patroni for databases. But firstly, one slide about me, and then what is Riia? I have been working in Riia for 8 years now. I started as a service manager in the Estonian national portal, eesti.ee. Eesti, it's like Estonia in Estonia, country named portal. It's a very good portal. Definitely go to there. But during my time there, I started to work with databases and got in fond of PostgreSQL, as it played a crucial role in most of the portal's operations. After 3 years with the national portal, I moved to the X-Road team, and even despite 5 years have already passed 5 years, I still enjoy working with the X-Road technology and implement ways to make Estonian ecosystem more reliable and maybe a bit more secure. I hope so. The Estonian Information System Authority, known as Riia, is the cornerstone of the Estonian e-services. We are a competent center for Estonian digital state. Our agency has helped to create several new e-government decisions and laws, and even I have been partly involved in some of them. If I remember correctly, I have been involved in 2 of them. Maybe more, but 2 definitely. But some of the essential services what Riia is providing. A secure state network for government institutions. While its use is not mandatory, most of the institutions are using it. National State Portal, of course, I already mentioned it, where I worked early, eesti.ee. Then CERT-EE, Estonian Computer Emergency Response Team, is also within Riia. Then National Electronic Identity, they are dealing everything what is with electronic identity, ID card, MID, and so on. And we develop and maintain election information system for e-voting, the well-known Estonian e-voting. We don't see any votes. Of course, for me, the most important field of our activity is in providing central services for our X-Road ecosystem, known as the X-Tee. I'm absolutely sure that everybody you have heard about X-Tee. Our team is very small. It consists only from 4 to 5 persons. Our very good and smart architect is doing other jobs for other teams also. He's helping everybody who is in need. He's like a very good doctor. Very good. Our small team in the small blue house on the picture, you will see there, is providing all the necessary X-Road services, including our own trust services, the timestamping services, CI services, and of course, if you have CA, then you have to have the OSCP services also. Our daily job is to monitor and provide the customer support to all our X-Tee members. Our longest fight is that some security server administrators doesn't want to upgrade their servers on time. And we have to remind them periodically, again and again, and even threaten them sometimes with the deletion of their registration if they will continue to use not supported versions. So, always upgrade your security servers, all Linux servers, and use the latest X-Road version, which is now 7.3.2, with the points. Don't hesitate, upgrade always, and upgrade now. You may start upgrading during the presentation also. It just will take only a few minutes. But just for a brief overview, I currently have approximately 13,060 different members. About half of them were active in the last month, and all of these members are hosted across nearly 180 security servers. If a member didn't make any request on the X-Tee last month, then they are not on this board. About 200 million requests are made each month in production environment. And like you see, last month was about 201 million. And approximately 2 billion requests we are through the production X-Tee environment is passing through. All these statistics are collected using X-Road metric software, which is also provided by NICE. However, I've included a snapshot of the fact sheet not for the numbers themselves, but to draw attention to the number highlighted in the green circle. This number represents the days that have passed since our production X-Road ecosystem last experienced some downtime. It happened about 6 years ago, and I hope we never have to reset this counter again. It's about, 6 years. It was in September. How we manage keeping everything working? As best as we could. We cluster everything. It's our policy that all public services must be clustered, and this extends to all our security servers as well. For me as a service manager, the clustering will give me peaceful evenings and nights when nobody is calling you that one of the servers are down, and all the maintenance work can be carried out peacefully during working hours, one node at a time. I don't have to be late at night at work to do some upgrade or something. This sense of peace is very important for service managers' mental well-being. Trust services are doubled also. In Estonia, we offer 2 independent providers of trust services. One is our own, provided free of charge, but working as best as we can do. It's almost always up. The second is ADAS qualified service with guaranteed uptime, but it's also a fee. We recommend, of course, configuring both trust services in the security service. Then the system can fail over from one to the other. In RIA, our new growing philosophy is not to trust other systems, so-called zero-trust philosophy in IT. Even within the services within the same subnet, we use HTTPS with mutual transport layer security and ensure that endpoints remain behind firewalls. While not all our services have fully embraced this philosophy yet, we are still steadily moving in that direction. My final recommendation is to always reserve some disk space for emergencies. Maintaining at least 20 years it's enough, but at least 20% of free space that's easily accessible has rescued me from total crashes on numerous occasions. I simply create some large files, and if extra space is needed, I just delete them one by one. It's very simple. But it's always important to restore your disk reserve once the situation is resolved, because we never know when we might need that extra space again. From what I should start to achieve this peacefulness of mind? Many clustering technologies require achieving quorum, which is often calculated as a total number of nodes divided by 2 plus 1. This means that the minimum number of nodes for quorum is typically 3, 5, and 7, so on, an odd number of servers. And why odd number? Because if all servers are up, then it prevents tie votes and split brain scenarios. Patroni functions, of course, well with just one node and is also suitable for 2-node cluster. However, both ATCD and Raft for Patroni coordination require a minimum of 3 nodes. We also use 3 nodes clusters. There isn't a fixed requirement for the number of servers in an X-Road cluster. You only have to consider that the central servers are special ones, because they are all function as master type servers. The security servers cluster are the usual one, where is only one master and all other nodes are secondary ones. If you have cluster of central servers, then I recommend to have the same number of management servers. Configure them to work in pairs, where the first management server communicates with the first central server node, and so on. In this way, you can send first pair of central and management servers for maintenance, and the members in your ecosystem would notice any downtime. So minimum amount of central and management servers is 2. However, we currently operate with 3. And why 3? Because we have 3 data center locations, more or less. But it's acceptable to have 2 central servers per environment, just to ensure that you avoid having only 1 in production environment. Never use only 1, because if it's down, then no security server can download its global configuration. Okay, database location. The decision between using a local database where X-Road software and the database reside on the same host or a remote database where they are on separate hosts depends on your specific requirements. In our case, the choice was quite clear, as the information security team said with very serious voice that all databases must be separate from applications. But if you don't have such rules, then typically remote database is easier to configure for high availability and scalability. Choosing between bidirectional replication, BDR, and Patroni, for me, it's an easy choice to make. Use what is easier to handle. While BDR is a very powerful tool for multi-master database, it was too scary complex. If it wasn't provoked in any way, then it worked like a charm. But you have to upgrade servers from time to time. And then it was always unpredictable, scary. You just can't imagine. You never knew, will the BDR synchronization continue to function on every node, or you would have to find some way to fix your application in some way. Patroni made our database management much easier. Even in some rare cases of split-brain scenarios, they were quite easy to resolve. Okay, before I'll show you a diagram of our server setup, I'd like to highlight some of the challenges we faced when moved to Patroni. Early X-Road versions used only password-based authentication for communication of databases. But because we decided to move to a remote database, we needed more secure authentication method. To address this, we locally installed PG Bouncer on the same X-Road server. This added an extra layer of security and offered the support for mutual transport layer security, the MTLS, between X-Road server and the database. Achieving high availability across subsystems. Besides the MTLS, we needed a solution to ensure high availability for our database when some nodes were on some other separate networks. Our solution was to use HA proxy. With the HA proxy in place, the application connects to the proxy, which then forwards the request to database, regardless of its location. He always knows who is the leader. These two were quite easy challenges to address, with some web searching and testing, and it was done. But the leader election issue was a proper one. Sometimes our Patroni nodes failed to recognize each other for a period, resulting in the inability to elect a leader due to ATCD timeouts. By default, ATCD has 1 second election timeout. But we experimented even with the maximum configurable timeout of 50 seconds. It's nearly a minute. It still wasn't enough, and we had some database crashes due to the absence of an elected leader. Later, we identified the root cause as an issue with the disk input-output. Since then, it was about 1-2 years ago, Patroni still supported its own leader election algorithm, Raft, and made no indication at all that soon it will be deprecated. We moved all our Patroni instances from ATCD to Raft, and this was a big improvement for our database stability. Raft is much less resource intensive than ATCD. But let's look on our architecture. In this way, we clustered all our security servers. We maintain a cluster of both security and central servers. In each node, the X-Road software sends its database request to a locally installed PG Bouncer at first. It verifies the authorization and forwards the request to an HA proxy service, also installed on the same machine. HA proxy is aware of the leader in the Postgre cluster and directs the database request to a leader. In our setup, the response indicating that the data has been saved to the database is only returned when the data has been successfully written by the leader and at least one standby node. So at least 2 nodes has to be always up in our database cluster. Patroni role is to manage the cluster's health and so on. Raft is trying to find the consensus between all the Patroni nodes, ensuring that there is always only one single leader node. PG Backrest is there to safeguard against disasters and data recovery. This tool actively requests val write-ahead log segments from the Postgre server and stores them in a remote S3 object storage. Overall health of all the nodes is monitored with the help of Zabbix. Last slide was about the design like we currently employ with the Patroni. But as I mentioned in the challenges section, we began with the ATCD and then moved to Raft because of the ATCD timeouts. Additionally, instead of HA proxy, we used a VIP manager at first for managed virtual IP addresses between leader nodes. It's the usual setup, like it's in the Patroni manual. All other components remain the same. On the client side, we had PG Bouncer for MTLS and PG Backrest for backup. Both of them were used from the beginning. Last my slide. I wanted to add a slide of the vision for the future, because I hope if the more I talk about it, the more it may happen in this way. Because Raft is now deprecated, then we'll probably go back to ATCD again. But in my dream, it would be on dedicated high-quality hardware servers provided centrally. This dedicated cluster will coordinate all Patroni's 4 different departments. In this way, teams will only manage Postgre database servers with Patroni and PG Backrest. And if I could, I would even give a full database management also away to our technology team to provide this as a service. Theoretically, with the latest X-Road software, it should support the leader discovery and MTLS in JDBC, Java Database Connection String. So we can get rid of PG Bouncer and HA proxy on the X-Road server side, on the client side. I haven't tested it yet, but hopefully soon we will. And with we, I mean with the help of a good architect. Thank you for all the help, Vitali. And thank you for your attention. Now I will try to answer your questions. Please ask only a simple one. Later, you can always contact me through the X-Road community Slack. And I hope that all your security server administrators who are you behind the screens start using Slack, community Slack. Because even if you are too shy to ask some questions there, then you can always see what other security server administrators ask and which problems they have. So you can just think with them that what can be a solution. And maybe if you manage to be faster than Petteri, then you can answer it itself. I tried several times to answer it before the Petteri, but he's always before me. And as a reminder, always allocate, I recommend you, at least some of this space for emergencies. You never know when you need it. And upgrade all your systems periodically. Don't wait for our letter if we will write you that something needs to be upgraded. Upgrade immediately. Thank you.
You were a rock star, I must say. really well done, Jan.
Okay, thank you.
And we have also received some questions also for you, and I'm very impatient, so I will ask all of them right now. I don't wait for like going to Slack, and I got to say, I mean, especially what you covered, so I'm fully sure that you're going to be also able to answer all of these questions as well. And actually, there is plenty of them, which again reflects that everybody really enjoyed your presentation here. All right, let's take the very first one here. What would be your best advice for an organization that is becoming an X-Road ecosystem operator of a country? Any recommendations for an organization that wants to become an X-Road ecosystem member, especially operator of a country?
If the legislation is already in place for the government side, then of course I have seen one country which also started to implement the X-Road technology. They have only one central server. So what do you think? They are quite often down. So it's so easy to cluster it. I would recommend, if you want that the reliability will be high and all your members will trust your system, then from your side, from the side of the provider, everything needs to be correctly done and it has to be always up. Because then the trust will accumulate and they see that your systems work, then they try with their systems, security server administrators.
Yeah, I wasn't the only one who enjoyed your presentation. There's also a comment here. Thank you for an interesting presentation and the funny delivery. I enjoyed very, very much. So very well done. There was also a very similar question for the previous one as well that you already briefly covered. How the system administrators could improve reliability of their security servers.
Reliability. At first, if I started work in RIA, there was only one security server for every system. Therefore, cluster everything. When the one is down or you will do maintenance on one, then all the your inner or outside clients can use the second one. They will notice any downtime. But if you have only one, then you have to reserve some special time when you can touch it. And you will always be afraid that something will break cluster. And for security server administrators, of course, upgrade your systems. Don't wait. Somebody is using Ubuntu 18 still. It's many years have already passed, I think. I don't remember, but it's an old system. Don't use it.
That's a great advice. So another one. Do the security service in Estonian X-Road system store also the message body or only the technical log without an actual message content?
From the central side, in the monitoring system, we see only the header. There's only information that who, when, to who, which service it used, but no information. But of course, all the security service on the client and member side will log out what was exchanged between the security servers. But it's only visible to the client on his side and to service provider only also on his side. But centrally, we don't see anything, only just ordinary statistics.
All right, a very interesting question that also I got here. What happened 2,200 SMT days, which means 6 years ago?
Yes, it was 2,200 days ago, about 6 years ago. Okay, what happened 6 years ago? I wasn't working in the RIA then, but in 2017, on September, there was done some changes in the global configuration for the central server. I think if I remember correctly, they deleted some not necessary configuration what was needed for the previous version of X-Road. Now we have 7, but no, it's almost the same like the 6, but for the 5 and 6 version of X-Road, they are not interoperability or something, because we have to delete it. Everything was checked. I know who worked this then. I know that they checked very through very good. I understood. But on the next morning, phone started to ringing, that something went wrong. And then, therefore, it came out that there was a bug in the X-Road software. But it was later fixed very soon, and everything worked. So I hope that it will never happen. We are very thoroughly testing the X-Road software, and we try to prevent all the bugs, but it can happen.
All right. Let's take the very last one, and then I will let the rock star to go. So what are the advantages of using zero trust philosophy in IT, as you mentioned before?
Zero trust philosophy. We try to implement it in all our systems. Of course, it's a new philosophy for RIA, no, quite new. The main advantage is that if something or somebody can access your system in some way, for example, some web server, Apache web server or something, then if you will use this philosophy, then he cannot easily access other systems in your network. All your systems you have to treat like they are on the public network. There's no safe zone on this philosophy. So you have to use zero trust philosophy. And it's much easier then to migrate to some cloud environment also, from inner to cloud. Because in the cloud, there's never inner safe zones. They are all can access by others. You have to think this way, that they all can be accessible.
This was great. I would like to thank you very, very much. And now we are moving on to our next speaker.